نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue with the book of Sharh al-Sunnah by Al-Imam Al-Barbahari rahimahullah, and it's a book of Aqidah, and as we heard before, it's good, it's important to keep on repeating the matters of Aqidah, matters of belief, because it's the foundation for everything, and we need to keep on repeating it till we memorize it, till we're able to say our Aqidah from the beginning to the end without being asked. It's one thing to know the masail or the matters of Aqidah one by one, and another thing is to know it all in a specific order. And this is what the early generations of Islam used to be ready when someone would ask them, what is your i'tiqad, what is your belief? You would find these books, very brief, but they would mention from the beginning to the end. And of course, there is depend on the context. If a Muslim is asked, what is your aqidah, what is your belief, from a disbeliever, from a non-Muslim, he would say one thing, the general aqidah, the pillars of al-Iman. Of course, the first is the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on. But if he's asked by a Muslim in large, what is your aqidah, then he will say what is specific for the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And these are the books of Aqidah that we study. That within the whole entire Muslim Ummah, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there is one way and one way only for the person to be on the ultimate and the perfect truth, and that is what the Prophet ﷺ and his companions radiallahu anhum were on. Because again, as we know, this is something that is inevitable, that this ummah split, as the Prophet ﷺ said, and we see and we witness this split. We don't have to see it, it's enough for us that the Prophet ﷺ said that, and we see that split among the ummah. So who is the one that is on the truth? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-Jama'ah, he said, Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. Al-Yawm, he said, Al-Jama'ah, he said, what me and my companions are on today. And that's what explains what Al-Jama'ah means, as we heard yesterday. Because from the Sunnah, since he mentioned that Al-Islam huwa Sunnah, wa Sunnah huwa Al-Islam. Al-Islam is the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is Al-Islam, and we explained that, meaning that Al-Islam, the deen of Al-Islam, is the Sunnah, is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's what As-Sunnah means in the context of Aqidah. Is the whole entire religion is by following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. That's what Al-Islam is. And the Sunnah is Al-Islam. And they're never separated from one another. Whoever separates them, he is, from the general sense, he's outside the fold of Al-Islam. He didn't say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Someone says, no following of the way of the Prophet ﷺ in its totality like this, he's not a Muslim. Unless he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in the right way. And from the Sunnah is, as he says, Luzumul Jama'ah. What is the Sunnah? Is to stick to the Jama'ah. The Jama'ah is not the literal meaning of the Jama'ah of a masjid or a group. Al-Jama'ah here is what the Prophet ﷺ defined Al-Jama'ah, which is Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi, what me and my companions are on. So this is the Jama'ah. And those who followed that, those who followed the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And we talked about the principle, the third point that was mentioned yesterday. وَالْأَسَاسُ الَّذِي تُبْنَ عَلَيْهِ الْجَمَاعَةِ وَهُمْ أَصْحَابُ مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم وَرَحِمَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَجْمَعِينَ وَهُمْ أَهْلُ السُّنَّةِ وَالْجَمَاعَةِ. The asas, the principle is that they are the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they are the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Whoever doesn't take from them, whoever chooses to be or to take the deen not from the companions radiallahu anhum, then he is a deviant and he had innovated something in the religion. وَكُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ وَالضَّلَالَةُ وَأَهْلُهَا فِي النَّارِ. And deviation and its people are in hellfire. This is a foundation. That whoever doesn't have this foundation, then he chose to take a different path. And this is what the aqidah that we need to be clear on. Right? This is very clear because this is based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that we follow their way by the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, by the ayat of the Quran, and we talked about these different evidences. And that's why what the Prophet ﷺ left this ummah on the clear way, no excuse for anyone. If he turned away from it, thinking that he's guided. If he turns away from this clear way that the Prophet ﷺ left us on, knowing that this is the way that the Prophet ﷺ left us on, he has no excuse. As Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, لا عذر لأحد في ضلالة ركبها حسبها هدى ولا في هدى تركه حسبه ضلالة فقد بينت الأمور وثبتت الحجة وانقطع العذر. So no excuse for someone that would be in a deviation, takes upon a deviation, he thinks that it's guidance or vice versa, because the matter has been made clear. Talking about the foundation of this deen, these principles, it has been made so clear. So no excuse when the matter become clear like this, except to follow these principles. Then to be in conformity with this, then everything has to fall into place with these principles, which is Islam is the Sunnah is the Islam, and the Sunnah, which is the way of the Prophet ﷺ, is to be with the Jama'ah, and that is the Ashab of the Prophet ﷺ, and those who followed them with goodness. And whatever they differed among themselves, that doesn't take the person outside the fold of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So they had differences. There's some valid differences, as it will be mentioned also in matters of ijtihad and so on. The fourth important principle, and still we're talking about what was mentioned yesterday, that ad-deen إنما جاء من قبل الله تبارك وتعالى. The deen comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Was not established based on the reason of men and their opinions. It's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very simple, straightforward principle, but it has to stand the truth at all times, right? And this is what makes a believer, and makes a disbeliever if he doesn't take his religion from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than the truth, kufr, deviation, because it's not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's from people's reason and opinions and liking. But if something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is definitely the truth, and this is the deen. Can we find that? Of course. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected his religion, and the Prophet ﷺ, when he returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deen was completed. So the deen is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as he said, فَلَا تَتَّبِعْ شَيْئًا بِهَوَاكَ. Do not follow things based on your desire. فَتَمْرَقْ مِنَ الدِّينِ. So that otherwise you will go outside of the fold of the deen. That's the foundation of going away from the deen, is following the desire. And as he will mention, it starts with a small thing. And if a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him his guidance, then the small thing doesn't stay small. It gets bigger and bigger, because the root of it is following the desire and not following what came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not about the action or what is said or what is done. No, it's about what's the roots of it in the heart. If a person would open his heart for the deen to be from the minds of people and their reason and so on, he opened a huge gate of deviation. And at times of fitan, times of tribulations, the danger of it, why this is so evil and so dangerous, because if that seed is in the heart, that can lead the person to kufr, to disbelief, because the environment is not strong, is not good, he would not be reminded here or there, he can be easily slipping away, and because the seed is there, he can fall into these matters of deviation. So that's why a person has to be careful. At the times of fitan, it's not about who got deviated, why did he get deviated, no, it's about who is saved. How did he save himself? Right? The norm is, at the times of fitan, that people get deviated and slips away, because it's fitan. Those who steadfast, these are not the norm at the times of fitan. How are they steadfast? Steadfast because they followed what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, and of course it's all by the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, rahimahullah, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ النَّاسَ لَمْ يَبْتَدِعُوا بِدْعَةً قَطْ حَتَّى تَرَكُوا مِنَ السُنَّةِ مِثْلَهَا فَاحْذَرِ الْمُحْدَثَاتِ مِنَ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ وَالضَّلَالَةُ وَأَهْلُهَا فِي النَّارِ. He said, وَاعْلَمْ. And again, this is the kindness and the goodness that is present between the people of knowledge and the rest of the people. وَاعْلَمْ, and know, have the knowledge that the people and the nas لم يبتدعوا, they did not innovate any bid'ah whatsoever unless they would leave from the sunnah the like of it. So when people innovate something in the deen, they left from the sunnah the equal of it. So it's either or, because the bid'ah negates the sunnah. It's not having a bid'ah and he still can have all the sunnah. And the bid'ah is something extra that he invented, and he can still be on the entire sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. No, it doesn't work this way. If a person introduced something in the religion that is not part of it, that means he has taken away part of the sunnah, the like of it. That means he has taken away part of the deen as a result of introducing something in the deen. So as a result of that, فَحْذَرِ الْمُحْدَثَاتِ, be warned against the introduced matters in the religion. Be aware from these matters of the introduced matters, because every muhdatha, every new invented matter is bid'ah, is innovation, and every innovation is dalala, is astray. وَالضَّلَالَةُ وَأَهْلُهَا فِي النَّارِ, and the deviation and its people in the hellfire. In the hellfire, it doesn't mean that with every specific person that fell into some innovation, he is in the hellfire, and we say that he is in the hellfire. What they mean by this, that means he deserves to be among the people of the hellfire, as it's been explained in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If he dies in the state of Al-Islam, either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive him, or if he is punished, eventually will enter Jannah if he died on the state of Al-Islam. So this is what it means that they are in the hellfire. And that's why not every deviation is kufr. Right? We have to also make the matter so clear. It's like a person committing a sin and dying in the state of a sin. Either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him, or if he's punished, he will eventually enter Jannah. So the same thing with introduced matters of the deen. And some people, they might be excused, and some people might not be excused. As we also mentioned yesterday, if people are misled by their people of knowledge and they thought that this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ when it was not, right, they can be excused if this is their environment and they did not know better and so on. But this is something that should be present again in the heart of every Muslim. Whenever they say the Shahada, whenever they learn their deen, the same way they learn Surah Al-Fatiha and they know how to make salah, they need to learn these things. That the deen is about things to be done and things to avoid, and to stay away from the newly invented matters in the deen, because the one to be followed is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that's the job of the ulama, is to show that the way of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then he says, وَحْذَرْ صِغَارَ الْمُحْدَثَاتِ مِنَ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ صَغِيرَ الْبِدَعِ يَعُودُ حَتَّى يَصِيرَ كَبِيرًا. He says, وَحْذَرْ, warn yourself, be warned against صغار المحدثات, the small introduced matters. Al-muhdatha is the newly things, right? صغار, the plural of صغير, small. So be warned against the small introduced matters, the small ones. فَإِنَّ صَغِيرَ الْبِدَعِ, because the small bid'ah, the very small innovations in the deen, يَعُودُ حَتَّى يَصِيرَ كَبِيرًا, he will keep on coming and be established, because it's small, so people keep doing it till it becomes big, till it becomes كبيرا. وَكَذَلِكَ كُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ أُحْدِثَتْ فِي هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ. And that's the same with every bid'ah, with every innovation that was introduced in this ummah. كَانَ أَوَّلُهَا صَغِيرًا يُشْبِهُ الْحَقِّ. At first it was something small, يُشْبِهُ الْحَقِّ, looks like the haqq. That's how the bid'ah is. That's why it's deceiving. It looks like the haqq, because it's not clearly deviation to the people, opposing their principles of their deen. It looks like the haqq, and there are of course examples of this. Something sounds good, something very small, whether it's celebrating something or introducing a way to make dhikr, for example. And we talked about these examples many times. People would take it as a small thing. But if it's not the way of the Prophet ﷺ, that means again they open their hearts for this deviation. They allowed themselves to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different way than the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, introduced something, whether it's ibadah by itself or the way to do the ibadah. Or, what's even worse, matters of aqidah, a matter of belief, which is big, of course, not something small. So when a person allowed this to happen to him, then what happens? It stays small, but it doesn't stay small. It keeps on getting bigger and bigger, and this is the way of shaitan till it becomes deen. Till it becomes deen. فَاغْتَرَّ بِذَلِكَ مَنْ دَخَلَ فِيهَا. So those who start doing these things, they become deceived by it. And shaitan, of course, works on this and makes people like it and makes people feel good, makes people see the effect of it. and that it works perfectly in his feelings, and he feels like his iman is increasing and so on. ثم لم يستطع الخروج منها. Then he won't be able to come out of it. Why? Because فعظمت وصارت دينا يدان به. Because it becomes deen. When something starts small like this, and then after some time, generations come, generations raised on something that they think it's deen. So it's very difficult for them to leave, especially the ways of the forefathers, which is mentioned in the Quran. One of the reasons, one of the major reasons nations are deprived from guidance is because of the ways of the forefathers. And this is repeated in the Quran in many verses. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوْ لَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. If they are told, follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, the deen is from Allah. Follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, and of course the ayah talks about the kuffar asalatan, initially, right? And then the far'a and the branches of this to each and every one of us. The ayah is not for the kuffar only, it's for us only also to learn from it, right? And to benefit from it, because a person can fall into the same evil characteristics by being a believer still. Because when the ayah condemns something about the disbelievers because of a characteristic that's in them, what is condemned is this characteristics. That means also the believers, they need to stay away from these characteristics. Otherwise it can become bigger, till wal'iyadu billah, they can fall into kufr. So if they are told, the disbelievers, follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would say, we would follow what we have seen our fathers and our forefathers doing. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying to them, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. What if their forefathers, they were not people of reason, they did not have reason, they were not guided. Who in the world said that part of intellect or part of the truth is to follow the ways of the forefathers? Does that make sense in the scientific world, for example? You know, the ways of the forefathers, what is that to do with correctness and right and wrong? This has nothing to do with the truth. And when this is so clear to people, to the simple means of reason, you would find most of humanity, they follow the ways of the forefathers blindly like this, right? And they always exalt the ways of the forefathers. And this is one of the most depriving reason or means for people to be deprived and to be deviated from the truth. Right? Because it becomes deen. Because it starts something very small and then it gets bigger and bigger. And there's so much examples of this. We talked before about the issue of dhikr. As Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he saw the people making dhikr in circles and so on. The celebrations. A guy, one person, he likes the idea of celebrating something. You know, so he makes it, let's celebrate this. Right? A day we celebrate. And it sounds good and it looks good and everything. So people start picking that, and then one generation after the other till it becomes deen. Then people fight with each other. This is a good thing. Oh, this is bid'ah. This is, and then the fight and the Muslim splits, and the shaitan, of course, he works on this. Can they go back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ to see what's the verdict of all of this? This is how it's supposed to be. But things gets bigger and bigger till it becomes deen. Right? And it's all because of introducing something in the deen that is not part of it. And this by itself, we can talk about one example after the other. You know, one of the, you would find even sometimes encyclopedias of bid'ah, right? All the bid'ah that is introduced all over the world, you would find so many, right? The endless innovations in the deen, that people think that this is a good thing, right? And this is, it doesn't stay there, it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. يقول فعظمت وصارت دينا. So the word is not against just the major one that looks very obvious. No, be warned against the very small ones. Because it keeps on getting bigger and bigger till it becomes deen. فَخَالَفَ الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ till the person deviates, goes away from الصِّرَاط الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. فَخَرَجَ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ till he goes out of the fold of Islam. Doesn't mean that every time it has to be this way, but this is the direction. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the will for the person to his deviation to stop at a certain limit, or others to go till they leave the fold of Islam. This is the direction that the bid'ah takes the people, because it negates the shahada of Muhammadur Rasulullah. يقول فانظر رحمك الله. Then look, فانظر, look carefully with your heart and with your mind and with the proper way. رحمك الله, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you. كل من سمعت كلامه من أهل زمانك خاصة فلا تعجل. Now he's talking about something practical, and this is in the year 300 and something Hijri, which is 1100 years ago. He's saying, rahimahullah, look, may Allah have mercy on you. All of each and every one that you hear his words, كل من سمعت كلامه, everyone that you heard his words, من أهل زمانك خاصة, from the people of your time especially from the people of your time, فلا تعجلن, do not be in haste. Whenever you hear someone is talking about matters of the deen, do not be in haste. ولا تدخلن في شيء منه حتى تسأل وتنظر هل تكلم به أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أو أحد من العلماء، فإن وجدت فيه أثرا عنهم فتمسك به ولا تجاوزه لشيء ولا تختر عليه شيئا فتسقط في النار. He's saying, whenever one of your people, one of your time, talk about something, do not be in haste. And do not, وَلَا تَدْخُلَنَّ, do not enter in something, because this is, you're making yourself enter into this matter, whatever they're talking about, telling people to believe in a certain way or to do a certain thing. Do not enter it till you ask and you look. Did the companions of the Prophet ﷺ talked about it? Or any of the ulama, those people of knowledge that are mu'tabareen, these are the people of knowledge that are well acknowledged in this ummah, did they talk about this or not? If you found athar in it, if you found a text in it, a tradition in this matter, فَتَمَسَّكْ بِهِ, hold fast to it. وَلَا تُجَاوِزْهُ لِشَيْءٍ, and do not go beyond it. This is perfect. وَلَا تَخْتَرْ عَلَيْهِ شَيْئًا فَتَسْقُطَ فِي النَّارِ, and do not choose otherwise you would fall into the fire. So now it's about, there's a personal effort to be done. It's also originally or mainly for the people of knowledge and those who are students of knowledge and so on. And for the common person, especially when the environments are open to anything, and this is what we face today. Everybody talks about the deen, whether we know them or we don't know them. And people talk about one thing, that this is deen, and they talk about the total opposite thing, and that's also deen. And everybody claims that this is deen. So if people leave themselves to, oh, that sounds nice, this is an eloquent speech, this bring tears in the eyes, has nothing to do with the truth. All of these things has nothing to do with the truth. The truth is before all of this. The truth is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the companions of Allah. This is deen. This is not some new companies that people would invent to make business or to make money. This is deen that has been completed. So if it's not from the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, or the ulama, those who followed them, and they talked about that and the imma of the deen, and that's why the key of the ulama, so that we're not talking here about the matters of fiqh again, right? So if the imma, al-arba'a, if someone follow their ways, he is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided in general, right? Even if he would do something that is not quite right and he's among the masses, he is following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to do. So this is not that subject, but rather the subject of bid'ah and innovation in the deen, and matters of aqidah, and matters of ibadat, that is innovation even if it's something small, because it leads to what is bigger. And he continues, and that's why there's an athar that I would like to also share with you, but after we finish this point. He says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْخُرُوجَ, we're following this, these are principles, right? These are things to stay with us. This is not just some words to be mentioned and that's it. No, it's principles that's supposed to stay with us, that we should remember it at all times. It becomes manhaj, it becomes our methodology in life. That we have to make sure that anything that is being said, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the ways of the companions radiallahu anhum, from the ulama, those who follow their ways. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْخُرُوجَ مِنَ الطَّرِيقِ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Know that al-khuruj, to go out from the path, is on two ways. عَلَى وَجْهِهِ, on two deviant paths. أما أحدهما, as for one, فرجل زل عن الطريق وهو لا يريد إلا الخير فلا يقتدى بزلته. The first one, a man slipped away from the path, and he doesn't want and seek anything but khayr. He slipped away from the true path, but he only intended what is good. He should not be followed. فلا يقتدى. He should not be followed in his slip. Right? He's a alim, he's a righteous person, he's a knowledgeable person, but he slipped. Is that valid to happen? Yes. Valid to happen that a alim would slip. Not in the whole entire religion that he becomes no alim. He's not a alim. But a alim makes a mistake. This is all ulama, they make mistakes. There's no alim that doesn't make mistakes. After the Prophet ﷺ, everybody makes mistakes. Even the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, individually. Everybody makes mistakes. So, again, if a person has the knowledge that a person or a person of knowledge makes a mistake, he is not to be followed in the mistake. فَلَا يُقْتَدَى بِزَلَّتِهِ. We're talking about principles. How that is to be done, this is very confusing. This is later. But we're talking about a principle that should be present in the heart. That this is deen. That you would meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with. That if a alim, if a person of knowledge, he slipped in a mas'ala, in a situation, in an incident, in an opinion, he is not to be followed in his zalla or in his slip away. يقول فإنه هالك, meaning he's saying that he's destroyed or perished. It doesn't really, in that sense, as the ulama, when they talk about the explanation of this, because the alim, if he makes a mistake, he's a true alim, he's still honored, and this is what the place of the author that we want to read. But this is the first case. The second case, وَآخَرْ عَانَدَ الْحَقِّ. And another case, the two ways of deviation. One that he wants good, but he slipped away. He is not to be followed in his mistake. The other one, عَانَدَ الْحَقِّ. The other one, he is stubborn against the truth. He knows the truth, but he turns away from it. وَخَالَفَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. And he turned away, different, opposed what those who before him from the muttaqeen. فَهُوَ ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ. He's a deviant. And he deviates others. شَيْطَانٌ مَرِيدٌ في هذه الأمة. He is a shaitan, fierce shaitan in this ummah. حَقِيقٌ عَلَى مَنْ يَعْرِفَهُ أَنْ يُحَذِّرَ النَّاسَ مِنْهُ. It's important that if a person knows him, that he warns people against him. وَيُبَيِّنْ لَهُمْ قِصَّتَهُ. And to explain to the people his story. لِأَلَّا يَقَعَ أَحَدٌ فِي بِدْعَتِهِ فَهَلَكَ. Otherwise people might fall into his bid'ah and they will be perished and destroyed like him. Someone clearly opposes the ways of the people of Ahlul Sunnah in their principles. Not in an incident here or there or a slip. So there's a difference between a mistake and there's a difference between someone turned away from, opposed the ways of the people of Ahlul Sunnah and the truth, and he's clearly, openly proud of himself in this. There's a big difference between both. And that's why there's a athar in Sunnah Abi Dawood. If we inshallah have the time to talk about it, I will get it. It might take me a while till I get it. Hopefully, inshallah, I find it right away. No, here it is. You guys can have a few minutes till I find this. Now, here it is. And this is in Sunan Abi Dawood, a statement by Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. And we have read this before, but I think this was in Dar al-Salam. In Kitab al-Sunnah, in Sunan Abi Dawood, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, one of the scholars of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. He's the head, as we heard before. He comes in the Day of Judgment, as the Prophet ﷺ said, ahead of all of the scholars of this ummah by a distance of a stone thrown. So he comes ahead of them by a distance. That's Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. After mentioning the chain of narration, Yazid ibn Umayrah, he said that he was from the companions of Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. He said, كَانَ لَا يَجْلِسُ مَجْلِسًا. And this is a very important athar from him in this subject. He said, كَانَ لَا يَجْلِسُ مَجْلِسًا لِلذِّكْرِ حين يجلس إلا قال الله حكم قسط هلك المرتاب. Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, every time he would sit in a majlis of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the meaning of the majlis of dhikr is not a majlis where people sit and make dhikr, like say subhanallah, subhanallah, like this. This is not the majlis of dhikr. Why would we say that? Because we have to follow the principles that we just mentioned. What was the majlis of dhikr at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and at the time of the companions radiallahu anhum? With all of the many hadith that we know, there was no such a thing where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sit with his companions radiallahu anhum and they make this collective dhikr together. Not even one. They would do this, right? Ever, whatsoever. The majlis of a dhikr is that they would, the Prophet ﷺ, teach them the Quran, teach them the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's the teaching and learning. These are the majalis of a dhikr. Or people remind, the majalis of reminders to one another, al-wa'd, reminding one another, as the Prophet ﷺ used to remind them. If they sit, listen to the Quran, they sit matters of deen. Basically, this is all majalis of a dhikr. So every time Mu'adh radiallahu anhu would sit and remind the people, he would repeat this statement all the time, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hakam al-qisda, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that rules, and He is the most just subhanahu wa ta'ala. Halak al-murtabun, they are destroyed and perished those who are in doubt. He would repeat this many times radiallahu anhu in his speech. Not that he's using it as a way of dhikr. No, when someone has a thing that he repeats in his speech. So this is what Mu'adh radiallahu anhu would repeat this. فقال معاذ ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu يوما. One day he said to them, and these things, they don't say it from themselves, they say it meaning that they heard it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, إن من ورائكم فتنا يكثر فيها المال. من ورائكم, behind you, coming ahead of you, something in the future, fitan, tribulations, that wealth will be abundance. يكثر فيها المال. Wealth will be so much in abundance, and that's what we see. You hear billions and trillions, and right, in which in the past that this is too much numbers of wealth is so much, in which we see that very clearly. So there will be so much abundance in wealth, and wealth is not just money, cash money. It's anything that has a value to it. ويفتح فيها القرآن. These times, meaning something in the future, signs of the hour, that the Quran will be opened. ويفتح فيها القرآن. Quran will be opened, not closed, will be opened. حتى يأخذه المؤمن والمنافق والرجل والمرأة والصغير والكبير والعبد والحر. Quran will be opened so that everybody will take from the Quran. The believer, the hypocrite, the man, the woman, the small, the big, the slave, the free man, everybody takes from the Quran. And this is by itself is how the Quran is being even saved in this ummah, right? The Quran is, everybody opens the Quran, and the small memorize it. It's not to condemn that everybody should open the Quran, but it shows this is the reality. Everybody, even the hypocrite, they open the Quran, and everybody, the women and the young and the old, everybody opens the Quran. فَيُوشِكُ قَائِلٌ أَنْ يَقُولُ. فَيُوشِك, very close, when this happens, someone would say, مَا لِلنَّاسِ لَا يَتَّبِعُونِي وَقَدْ قَرَأْتُ الْقُرْآنِ. A person would say, what's the matter with the people? Why they don't follow me when I have recited the Quran or memorized the Quran? Whether it's qara'tu means recited or memorized. And I know the Quran. Why people are not following me when I'm good in the Quran, recited the Quran? مَا هُمْ بِمُتَّبِعِي حَتَّى أَبْتَدِعَ لَهُمْ غَيْرًا. Again, this is Mu'adh radiallahu anhu saying this. He said that this man would say that they won't follow me حَتَّى أَبْتَدِعَ. They won't follow me till I introduce something else for them. يقول فَإِيَّاكُمْ وَمَبْتَدَعَ. Mu'adh radiallahu anhu saying, be warned away from what he introduces. فَإِنَّمَا ابْتَدَعَ ضَلَالًا, because what he introduces is ضَلَالًا, is innovation. So this is clear, right? Warning against the innovation. Then he says, وَأُحَذِّرُكُمْ زَيْغَةَ الْحَكِيمِ, and I warn you of the zayga. Zayga is like the zilla, is the slip. I warn you from the slip of the wise person. So it's a wise person, it's a good man, it's a person of knowledge. I warn you against the slip of the wise person, not the deviant one, no, the good person. I warn you against the slip. Of course, if he's a deviant, this is very obvious that we should be warned against those who are deviant. It says, I warn you against the slip of the wise person. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ قد يقول كلمة الضلالة على لسان الحكيم, because the shaitan can say the word of dalala, the word of deviation, on the tongue of the wise and the learned person. Very good, very dangerous thing. A wise person, a knowledgeable person, the shaitan can say the word of dalala through him. He can make him slip and say a word of deviation. وقد يقول المنافق كلمة الحق, and the munafiq, the hypocrite, he might say the truth. The munafiq, the hypocrite, can say a word of truth. The munafiq is not on the truth, but he can say a word, right? So the exception, that he might say the truth. And the one that is learned and wise, the shaitan might make him say a word of dalala. That means also this is the exception, because he's a learned person, a scholar of the deen and so on, but he might slip, saying a word of deviation. قال قلت لمعاذ, then Yazid ibn Amir, the narrator, he said, I said to Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, ما يدريني رحمك الله أن الحكيم قد يقول كلمة الضلالة وأن المنافق قد يقول كلمة الحق. He said, how would I know, may Allah have mercy on you, that the Hakim, the wise person, is saying the word of deviation, and the munafiq, the hypocrite, is saying the word of truth? How would I know if this is the case? قال بلى, he said, yes. اجتنب من كلام الحكيم المشتهرات التي يقال لها ما هذه. He said, stay away, اجتنب, stay away from the kalam, from the words of the Hakim, of the learned person. Al-mushtahirat, the famous, mushtahirat means something that is famous, something that spreads around. Mashhur, something very famous, from his words that people would say, what is this? What did he say? You know, that sometimes a person of knowledge, a scholar, and he would say something wrong. This is valid to happen? Yes, it happens. And then people would say, what did he say? He said something wrong. Mahadi, or they would ask, what is this? Stay away from this. So once he says something different than what is the matter of the deen, of course the person should have knowledge and so on, but people would say, would question what he says. وَلَا يُثْنِيكَ ذَلِكَ عَنْهُ. So stay away from what he said, but don't make this take you away from this alim. Don't make that slip that he did take you away from the alim. Don't cancel this alim. Don't say that he's a deviant because he said a word of deviation. Stay away from this deviant word that he said, and do not stay away from him. وَلَا يُثْنِيكَ ذَلِكَ عَنْهُ. لَا يُثْنِيك. Do not. This originally means when you sit with your foot, like in tashahhud, when your foot is bent, right? This is how you sit with the alim. Do not turn away from him. Still sit with him. Still stay with this alim, even though he might slip and say a word of dalala. Stay away from this dalala that you'd say, what did he just say? When a person sits with the ulama, he knows what is right and what is wrong, and that's why it's important to sit with the ulama. So when the alim would say something that is, you know, what is this? You would question, what did he say? Is that right? Right? Stay away from this. Of course, get to know what is the truth and so on, but stay with him. Do not leave him. وَلَا يُثْنِيكَ ذَلِكَ عَنْهُ. Do not stay away from him. فَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَّهُ أَنْ يُرَاجَعَ. Because maybe he might return back, you know, and correct himself. وَتَلْقَى الْحَقَّ إِذَا سَمِعْتَهُ. And more than this. And take the haqq, take the truth if you heard it. فَإِنَّ عَلَى الْحَقِّ نُورًا. Because on the truth there is light on it. It's even referring to the munafiq said something that is haqq. Right? The haqq has light to it. Right? So take the haqq from whoever. Because the haqq has nur to it. The normal person might be confused with this, right? So the nur is not feelings and so on. But again, for those who have the matter of being able to do this, they should take the truth. One of the things that, since we mentioned this, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad, Hafidhullah, when he was explaining, he has actually, and it's written by the way, he explained all Sunnah Abi Dawood in many, many years. One of the things that he said in explanation of this, when Yazid ibn Amirah, he said, how would I know the Hakim, the learned man is saying this, and the words of Dalala and vice versa, the Munafiq? He says, when he explained the words of Mu'adh radiallahu anh, أيجتنب من كلام الحكيم المشتهرات. Stay away from the words of the alim, what is well known, or what is makes you say, what is this? Why? لكونها شيئا غريبا يلفت النظر. Because it becomes something strange that makes a person attention. فهي قد اشتهرت بغرابتها. It become famous because it's strange, not because it's the truth, because it's something strange. So it becomes famous. وبمخالفتها للكلام الحسن, and it's different than the good words or the way of the Prophet ﷺ that is with this ayah. وهذا يشبه, and this is like what came into the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, استفتي قلبك وإن أفتاك الناس وأفتوك. Istafti, ask your heart even if people give you fatwa and give you fatwa. Again, this has to have the level of knowledge that the person is able to know what is right and what is wrong and so on. And he says, a person can have a doubt in a matter that is being said, because it has something that is not clear. So he would say, and some things you don't ask about it, right? Like for example, he's mentioned the example when someone comes and asks, is it permissible to name a human being by this name? He's in doubt. Should I name my daughter or my son this name? He doesn't feel comfortable. He's not going to come and ask, can I name my son Abdullah? Nobody will go ask a alim, is it permissible? But they come and ask these words, these names that is not really clear what's the meaning of it, right? So things like this can happen. So he's saying this kalam of this hakim, of this person, should be avoided. So you have to stay away from it. And then he says, لا يثنيك ذلك عنه, but don't leave this alim. يقول وقد يكون لبس عليه, because he might get confused, and the alim is valid that he would make a mistake. So maybe he would return back when he is reminded and so on. He's saying, do not stay away from him. And يقول, he says, وَالْحَقُّ ضَالَّةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. The haqq, the truth, is what the mu'min is seeking and is looking for. Whatever he finds the truth, he would hold fast to the truth. And as the Shaykh says, referring to the ayah, وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً قَالُوا وَجَدَنَا عَلَيْهَا آبَاءَنَا وَاللَّهُ أَمَرَنَا بِهِ. When the disbelievers, they do fahisha, they do evil things, they would say, we found our fathers doing it and Allah ordered us to do it. Well, you have to pay attention to this ayah because it's a very beautiful extraction of a benefit from it. The ayah says, the meaning of which, when the disbelievers they do fahisha, they do evil things, sinful acts, they would say, we found our fathers doing it. This is why they're justifying it. We found our fathers doing it and Allah ordered us to do it. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in response to what they said? فَأَنْكَرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَاحِدًا وَأَقَرَّ الثَّانِيَةِ لِأَنَّهَا حَقٌّ مُطَابِقٌ لِلْوَاقِعِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned one thing and He approved another thing that they said, because this is the reality that they're facing, that they're doing. So when they said, we found our forefathers doing it, this is true. This is what they did. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not answer this one, but rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered the second one, which is Wallahu amarana biha, that Allah ordered us to do it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not order people to do fahsha, to do sins and evil. Right? So see here that the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even teaching that although they said something of the truth, they said the truth. So that's why they were not condemned. Of course this is a bad thing what they said, but this is the reality. So it was not, the answer was not about this reality that they already, which is true. The answer was to whatever they said, which is a lie. And that is what that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do. Is it clear? So this is the reality. And then, again going to the subject of do not stay away from him. And as he says here, لا تنأ ولا تبتعد عنه. This is the statements of the Shaykh. The meaning of, do not stay away from him. Do not go away from him. وَلَا تُفَاصِلْهُ وَتَتْرُكْهُ وَتَنْفُضْ يَدَكَ مِنْهُ. Do not stay away from him. Do not say, that's it, I'm not going to listen to that person and stay away from him because he made that mistake. وَلَا تُصَلِّطْ لِسَانَكَ عَلَيْهِ. And do not get your tongue to attack him. Stay away from attacking him with your tongue. بسبب هذه الزلة, because of this mistake. فإنه لا يسلم أحد من الزلل. Because nobody is safe from mistake, otherwise nobody will be left in the ummah. Everybody will be boycotted and left and so on. ولا يسلم أحد من الخطأ. Nobody will be safe from mistake whatsoever. ولو كان, that's what the Shaykh says, ولو كان كل من أخطأ ينابذ ويبتعد عنه لما سلم أحد من ذلك. If that's everybody makes a mistake, we turn away from him and we boycott him, then no one will be safe. And that's why it keeps on splitting till there's nobody left in the whole ummah, because every time one make mistake, stay away from him, till where's then the people of knowledge, there's nobody left. يقول فالعالم إذا حصل منه خطأ. If the alim, a mistake happens from him, فإنه يقبل ما عنده من الحق. Then you should take what's from him of the truth. ويحذر مما عنده من الخطأ. And should be warned against what he has of mistake, which is, again, this is the balance here. It's not whenever he makes a mistake, we say Ameen, right, to the mistake. No, the mistake has to be warned against. ويحذر ما عنده من الخطأ. And to take from him what is right, what is the truth. ولا يترك ما عنده من العلم. And he should not be left away from the ilm that he has. Still people should seek the ilm from him. فإن من العلماء من ابتلوا ببعض مشايخهم. Some of the ulama, they have been tested by some of their mashayikh, some of their scholars. فحصل لهم التضرر ببعض المشايخ فصار عندهم شيء من الانحراف في العقيدة. Some of them, they were affected by some of their mashayikh or some of their scholars, so they had some deviation in matters of aqidah. Although they are ulama, they are muhaddithun, they are people of knowledge, they are people of hadith, and they have many مؤلفات واسعة, books of hadith and so on. والناس لا يستغنون عن علمهم وعن حديثهم. And the people can never stay away from their ilm and their hadith. فلو كان كل من حصل منه خطأ يترك ويترك ما عنده لتركت هذه المجلدات الكثيرة التي ألفها بعض أهل العلم من المحدثين. If that's the case, then everybody makes a mistake, then it's to be left away. Then people would have left all of these volumes and volumes of books of knowledge from the people of knowledge and the peoples of hadith that even had some mistakes in matters of al-aqidah. Those who had some mistakes in matters أخطاء في العقيدة, مثل ما حصل, this like what happened to الإمام البيهقي رحمه الله. فإن له كلاما في العقيدة في بعض الجوانب لم يصل فيه. He has some words in عقيدة that is not correct in. قيل إن السبب في ذلك هو من المشايخ. This because of the mashayikh that he took from, حيث يحصل بسببهم شيء من المخالفة. Sometimes they would have things that is different, but he's Imam Kabir, he's a big Imam and a muhaddith and so on. And he has the book of Sunnah al-Kubra and Mujalladat, and people go back to it, and whatever happened from his mistake is to be left. Not to follow him in his mistake, because nobody would be safe from this, otherwise people would leave everyone. And who is safe from mistake? وَإِنَّمَا الَّذِي يُنَابَدُ. But then who is the one to be boycotted and to be left and to be warned against? هو المبتدع الذي يدعو إلى بدعة. Is the one that innovates in the deen, that he calls the people into this innovation in the deen. وأما إنسان من أهل السنة وممن خدم السنة. So when someone is from the people of the sunnah and he serves the sunnah, واجتهد في نفع الناس, and he has so much effort in benefiting the people on the sunnah and the deen of Islam, ثم حصل منه خطأ, then a mistake happened from him, فإنه لا يترك. He is not to be left or to be turned away from or to be boycotted. ولا تترك جهوده, and not to stay away from his effort that he did in matters of the deen and so on. ولا يحذر منه, and not to be warned against him. وإنما يحذر من خطئه وزلته, but to be warned, to warn against his mistake. So the warning is against his mistake and not against the individual if he's from the people of Ahl Sunnah and so on. So that people will benefit from his ilm. So the mistake is to be shown definitely, and to have mercy on the one that did the mistake. Right? يقول ويدعى له, and to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him. ويحث على الاستفادة من العلم, and to even encourage people to seek knowledge from him. Right? So this is the the balance, and this is the way of the people of knowledge since the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, that this is how the balance of making sure that we warn against the bid'ah, and we stand firm against the innovation in the deen, and warn against the innovation of the deen, but not everyone that made a mistake, right? Especially with incidences, the times of fitna, when someone would slip in an incident, and he's warned against whatever he did, and it's not something that is opposing one of the principles of the people of Ahl Sunnah, he's still from the people of Ahl Sunnah, showing the truth. Yes, this is an obligation of the people of knowledge, but not to boycott or stay away from anyone that did any mistake and so on, otherwise nobody will be left in this ummah. And this is a fitna that we have to be warned against, the fitna of destroying the whole ulama of this ummah, except one or two or so. This is a fitna that a person should avoid and should stay away from. As the ulama, they warn against this, and to be busy with learning the deen and knowing what is right and what is wrong. And when we heard this, probably when people are listening to this, can be very confusing. What should we do? That makes it so important to learn the deen and not to leave our deen to whoever says anything, right? Because it's a very dangerous thing. A person can slip away so easy, right? So it's upon ourselves. If it's times of fitan, if it's times of confusion, the person has to learn the deen, and has to put the effort to learn the deen to save himself and to save his family from slipping away, and to be firm on the way of the Prophet ﷺ till the moment of death comes, and not to rely on just some men here or there that they would take the religion without making sure that it's the truth and from the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And then, inshallah, more into the subject because of the time. We'll stop at this point and we'll continue inshallah next time.